Hey, it's Molly. Welcome back to my channel as we're going to discuss the Taurus full moon occurring on November 5th at 8:19 a.m. That's Eastern time, so be sure and adjust for your location on the planet. This full moon is happening at 13 degrees of Taurus in your chart. You want to locate where you have 13 degrees of Taurus, 22 minutes, as this is where the moon is going to be full and bright, illuminating Taurus themes in your life by house placement. Also important to note is that this is a super moon, and that means the moon is going to be closer to the earth. It can appear to be up to 30% brighter. And it means it's also going to have a big effect on our water systems, oceans, ebbing and flowing of the oceans, the higher tide. There could be a king tide occurring with this full moon. There also is more water in motion overall. So that's because it is a super full moon. And then when we examine how it's occurring in the sign of Taurus, which seeks stability, comfort, security, this is where we are learning to integrate and embody greater core strength during these very big times of change and the big movements on the planet. So the big movements of water systems, energy, emotions, all the uncertainty that's arising and that's been in play. This is a full moon directing you back into yourself to look at what you need to stabilize, asking you to check in with your foundation. Taurus energy is self-reliant. It's where you're able to handle things on your own, to gain strength, and to be in your own energy, feeling that it's stabilizing and strong. There's a simplification with Taurus energies where you could also realize what has been distracting you or taking you away from what truly matters to you at this time, what you need, what you want, what you desire. Taurus energy is also how we invest in anything that matters to us. Not just financial investment or material investments, but energetic investment. We prioritize what we want, and we understand this is what matters to me. And so this is a Taurus full moon that could bring you back to your core values. If you've been pulled away from them or have lost sight of something, this is a full moon. Because it's a super full moon, it's going to shine a light brightly on more of what you want, more of what you want to accumulate, own, or possess. Also how to call your energy back into yourself and allow it to ground you, allow it to support you. And this is part of the balancing mechanism of every full moon. So with this moon in Taurus, it means that on the opposite side of the chart, we have the sun moving through Scorpio, about halfway through Scorpio. And the sun in Scorpio is bringing us into the depths of our psyche, giving us a drive to connect with what's happening within us that we wouldn't necessarily acknowledge, feel, or understand. But the sun in Scorpio wants to go deeper, wants to understand what is operating below the surface, what is happening within you that you're facing. You could be facing it privately, you could be facing it internally. Scorpio wants us to look at parts of ourselves that we're choosing to transform. We're saying, I am more powerful when I face a fear, when I understand this part of myself, when I see it for what it is. Scorpio is a truth seeker, but it seeks that truth under the surface. And so with this Taurus full moon, think of Taurus as what is above the surface. It's the tree, branches, leaves, what you see with your eyes, what is visible, Taurus being an earth sign that rules our physical realm. So it's what you see, right? And then Scorpio is what's below the earth, in the roots, in the soil that you've grown from, in the territory underneath the earth that you wouldn't even know holds so much more depth and power. It's these roots, the roots of the tree that you don't see, that stabilize what you do see. And so during Scorpio season, we are meant to get into more of who we truly are, to look at any long-term patterns, habits, or unconscious areas of self that we can now powerfully evolve and face. And because that Scorpio energy operates below the surface, it's very intuitive. It's magical. It will show you more of what is energetically calling to you. And with Scorpio, there's often a sense of all or nothing. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, it is the time in autumn when the leaves fall to the ground and they then transform in the dirt, in the mulch, in the soil. And it's in the letting go that it's like in that version of self, it becomes something more. So those leaves become part of the earth and they merge into a bigger force. And so with the Scorpio energy, we're meant to look at, how am I merging my energy? How am I sharing my energy? Where is my energy going outside of myself? And is it empowering? Is it giving me anything regenerative? Or is it draining me? Is it too heavy, too dense, weighing me down? I can't do this anymore. I've reached a dead end. I've reached a sense of I can't go any further. And this particular full moon is going to bring you back into what you want and what you value, and bring about a turning point, perhaps, that you're seeing in a new light. It's a very bright, clear light with a super full moon. And it's taking you out of some kind of darkness. The Scorpio energy is a beautiful guide through the unknown. And it's meant to give you tools for moving through more parts of yourself that you wouldn't normally come into contact with or understand. And I feel that there could be something that comes to light here with the Taurus full moon. And I feel like it's going to be quite jolting. I'm going to explain why here in just a moment. But there's something that we are returning to in ourselves that we've been pulled away from. Okay, so let me go into some more things here as I examine the chart. Now, throughout October especially, we were talking about a Cardinal T-Square with this Chiron at 24 degrees of Aries retrograde squaring this Jupiter at 25 Cancer. Jupiter is going to be stationing retrograde at 25 degrees on November 11th. So this is a very slow moving Jupiter right now, hanging out at 25 degrees, and is going to remain in an ongoing square with Chiron, bringing up more of what you are here to emotionally heal, reframe, grow from, and mature through that affected any parts of the Aries sense of self, self-identity, confidence, independence. It is the wounded warrior becoming a more evolved spiritual warrior and a more integrated warrior with the Aries masculine and the Cancer feminine. So there is something occurring here deep within us at an emotional core level around the feminine and masculine, understanding more of what they are healing. And there's always a square in astrology between the feminine and the masculine. There's always a square. And there's something about that that I find quite beautiful, because the square is about a growth that's possible through the tension and pressure. So then what makes this even more of a relationship focused energy is this Venus. So she is finishing up her time in Libra. And previously, before the full moon, the first week of November, she was in more of an exact T-square with Chiron and Jupiter. She's still in a T-square at this full moon, and she's the ruler of the full moon because Taurus is ruled by Venus. So she's in rulership, which elevates her prominence, and she is working through her experience, her growth potentials of this T-square. Now, this T-square is the 3 planets, right? Chiron, Jupiter, and the planet moving through Libra up here. We've already had Mercury, Mars, and the Sun in this T-square. Now Venus comes through, the final planet in the T-square here, not including the moon, and she is wanting to bring in balance, as every planet in Libra does, but now she's bringing it into her self-worth, her needs, her relationships and partnerships, her connections, how she expresses who she is with others, and how she shares her needs. Venus is strong in Libra because she allows us to be more objective and detached around what is one person's experience versus what is another person's experience. She's a good listener, a kind friend. She wants to ensure there is reciprocity. And so with this being the final planet moving through this particular T-square, we are understanding more of what matters to us in relationships at a personal level, with what we value in ourselves, and ensuring that we have connections with others of shared values, shared priorities. This is what matters to me in a relationship, right? It's like good communication, being upfront, being honest, being heard, understanding that yes, we're different. There's always differences. You can take any 2 people on the planet and put them together and they will have differences. So how do we work with that? How do we harmonize that and allow each person to still maintain their sovereignty and autonomy, but also allow it to create great relationships, great connections, great partnerships? And I think that what this brings up in Libra is how we are realistically applying what we've learned about ourselves, or what we're learning about ourselves, because both Aries and Cancer are personal internal energies about your own experiences that you're working through. And then the Libra energy is how you take that out to others, discuss it, share it, and create something new from it. I have videos for you here on YouTube that's discussed this T-square, but it's still important during the Taurus full moon, especially with Venus as the ruler of the moon in Taurus. So that's one major aspect here in this chart. There's 2 more to get through. I'm going to save the biggest one for last. The next one is going to be this Water Grand Trine, okay, that is unfolding. It started at the Libra new moon, and it will unfold into mid-December. And so it has now this Neptune back in Pisces with Saturn in Pisces, both retrograde, both reviewing matters from earlier this year that you are spiritually completing and finalizing, but with new wisdom that's been obtained, new understandings about yourself that you've come into contact with since each of these planets was previously in Aries. So there was a starting point, there was a beginning that was showing you more about who you are, and now these energies retract back into Pisces to look at what needs to be further completed, unraveled, and finalized. There's very big completions as this Neptune hangs out at 29 degrees of Pisces, conjunct Saturn. A lot of, there's karma here. There's karmic consequences. There are energies here that are requiring maturity, responsibility, ownership, and growth. It's not a passive energy by any means with the Saturn here. And so these two are working together. They're in a rather wide conjunction because with Neptune, we usually only give Neptune a 2 or 3 degree orb. But because they're both hanging out together here, I'm going to say that they are conjunct. And you can see that both are then trining this Jupiter at 25 degrees of Cancer, which allows you to move the completion energy forward and to filter out, phase out what isn't a part of your emotional needs or your personal foundation. And there's a stabilizing influence with a trine, especially with Saturn, that shows you the bigger picture. And Jupiter is the sage. Jupiter brings you the wisdom of the emotional understandings here, what you've been moving through and what has been gifting you with important self-understandings. I feel this trine is just a beautiful thing. It brings in opportunities to trust what you're feeling, to not make them be something that they're not, to just flow with the growth that's arising, and to certainly tap into any emerging psychic abilities, intuitive senses. Anything coming through outside of the mind and the physical world is going to be very strong. I think this energy also connects us more to what's behind the veil. And so then we bring in the fact that the Water Grand Trine is interacting with planets in Scorpio. And at this time, that's my Black Moon Lilith there at 24 degrees of Scorpio, directly connecting with these other planets in water signs. And I want to note that because Mercury is also moving slow, I'll get to Mercury in a minute, Mercury is going to be going back into Scorpio with the upcoming retrograde, November 9th to November 30th, and keeps this Water Grand Trine in motion. We're also going to see the Sun and Venus move through the Water Grand Trine. But at this time, Black Moon Lilith is here, and she's holding where you're really pissed off, resentment, jealousy, anger, envy. She goes very dark in Scorpio. She goes into the deeper aspects of self that are also very private, parts of yourself that you're not openly sharing. It's like she's like the evil stepmother or evil stepsister who wants to get revenge or is going after someone in Scorpio. And what she is meant to be moving through, it's her own spiritual lessons around that energy and the emotional base of it, where it comes from, even from birth, where it comes from, that has formed her. And this is an opportunity to flow with the feelings of it. A Water Grand Trine will keep energy moving. There's always a next connection point. So this can bring up big feelings that need to be moved, that need to be filtered out and filtered through. This can bring you to more of the heart of a matter. And with this Black Moon Lilith, There's a purging here, a purging from behind the veil of where she feels a lack of justice, a lack of fairness that's maybe been driving her. I feel too like this Black Moon Lilith, because she's finishing up her time in Scorpio, she's going to have some new insights into her true power, her true connection to her soul. And it feels too like with this Water Grand Trine, activating a lot of emotions. There could be a greater need for privacy, retreat, anything that allows you to be very honest with yourself and what needs to flow through and move through. And then after it does, there's a freedom. And the freedom also allows in greater receptivity, because water is a highly receptive element. It will absorb, soak in, support anything flowing down the river. It will support, what lands in the ocean. I'm just thinking about how water carries and it drowns and it sinks. And so with this particular Water Grand Trine, what is flowing through you? Are you going to allow it to carry you or to sink you? Some people might feel that they're really in deep here and they're learning to swim for the first time in the deep end, because the energy is overwhelming. It's very intense. So it depends on how you work with the water element, how you work with your feelings, how you work with your emotions. If you're trusting what you're feeling and allowing that to be enough validation or enough of a message. And remember, this continues. And that message energy is important because Mercury is going to return here to Scorpio and be there the end of November into December, bringing in more deeper messages, secrets, revelations, what's been hidden, what has been attempted to be hidden, the truth that has been submerged or manipulated. This is where Mercury is going to be doing a lot more work here in Scorpio. So there's going to be this ongoing Water Grand Trine working with us, influencing us. You could even be feeling that you're drawn to water. You're drawn to longer showers. You're seeking something that allows you to flow with the wisdom of water and allow it to work with you. So Water Grand Trine in motion. And then what I would consider the biggest aspect of this Taurus full moon is the opposition between Mars at 0 degrees of Sagittarius conjunct Mercury, opposing Uranus, 0 degrees Gemini retrograde. I want to quickly note, these are not world points. I've been talking about world points. The world points are only in the cardinal signs. And these are the mutable signs. Gemini and Sagittarius are mutable signs. But this is a shocking, surprising, shake it up opposition with Uranus working with both Mercury and Mars in the early degrees of the truth seeker and surprises and big announcements of Sagittarius. Mercury actually is staying in this opposition because Mercury is going to station retrograde at 6 degrees of Sag, November 9th. So just a few days, 4 days after the full moon. This Mercury maintains that opposition to Uranus. This is changes of mindset, changes in information. What you previously thought or what you were told is turned around, turned upside down. The reverse is true. The opposite comes through. Surprising revelations, shocking developments. And then here's Mars at exactly opposing Uranus. And Mars gains more energy in Sagittarius. He becomes the marathon runner. Mars in Sag wants to go on a very long walkabout, and don't ask him when he'll be back because he doesn't know. And if he did know, he's not going to tell you. So this is the seeker. I've got to go out and get that. I've got to make moves on this. I've got to go for it. This is the traveling energy of Sagittarius and Gemini. It's seeking information, wisdom, understanding, what was not known. This is maybe setting the record straight, a desire to correct anything or to move towards what inspires you, what motivates you. At a collective level, Mars in Sag opposing Uranus in Gemini is the electrical grid, is shocking developments with, I'm just thinking about how Uranus is electricity and power, the internet, the power grid, the cloud storage, databases, travel being affected. Pluto at 1 degree of Aquarius, now direct, is sextiling this Mars and this Mercury and trining this Uranus. And it's the Pluto energy in Aquarius that also works with the collective grid, airports, air travel, the big systems that we rely upon for the internet. There could be more outages. Just recently there was that Amazon Web Services outage that brought down a lot of websites, apps, services. That's also strong again here with this opposition between Mars and Uranus and then sextiling Pluto. It's change. This Mars is ready for change, and so is Mercury. Both of these in Sagittarius are ready for something new and different. Show me something I haven't seen before. Let's go somewhere I haven't been before. This is where you're ready to venture into new territory, and it could even surprise you. Like this is like a shocking development, a shocking risk. Like you might find yourself saying yes to something that is so outlandish and crazy that you'll be like, am I going insane? And Sagittarius is like, no, you're just having fun. This is fun. Ask a Sag, everything's fun. So this is a sense of where am I ready to let loose? What changes am I ready to make? Because I feel like part of this opposition, which I believe is the biggest energy in this whole chart, is breaking you free from something you've been thinking about and now you want to do. It's a doing energy, doing, sharing, expressing, talking. There's a lot of motion here. There's a lot of movement with this. And there's something that maybe you're feeling propelled to do, propelled forward. But don't worry, Sagittarius, it's just fun. This is going to be a great time. It's going to be an amazing story. And it's interesting because the connection here to Pluto is supporting this change. And when Pluto supports, especially the personal planets through a sextile, there's a force, a desire. I've got to do it. I'm locked in. I'm locked into a new risk, a new adventure. And it heightens the energy of this Water Grand Trine, because this is the sense of going for it, putting something into motion. And yet it's all happening within the umbrella of the Taurus full moon. And the Taurus energy is more cautious, slower, an observer, withholding. The Taurus energy doesn't move. It's meant to be that stabilizing influence. And so getting back to how this Taurus full moon is stabilizing what you value and what matters to you, I feel like this opposition in the early degrees of the mutable signs is like letting you know that it's okay to take a risk or do something different, because you're traveling with an internal core strength that is always connected to you no matter where you roam. Oh, and this Uranus is conjunct Sedna, retrograde as well at 0 degrees of Gemini. And Uranus and Sedna takes us into a slower, deeper evolutionary journey. I'm just hearing like neurological shifts, a new way of seeing ourselves, a new way of understanding information, stories, narratives. This opposition with this Uranus conjunct Sedna is not pictured, opposing Mars and Mercury in Sag, is very much about higher wisdom, exploration, big plans, big endeavors. There could be life-changing developments underway. There could be a sense of adventure. There could be a need to just go down the path that is calling to you. The road less traveled is here. The road less traveled could be a shocking development, an unexpected surprise. But you know what? It could also be really happy, because that Sagittarius energy is happy, is ready for a good time, a party, a laugh. Like shake it off. Like, what do you need to shake off in order to set yourself free? Like, where do you need to get out of the mind? Any kind of mental anxiety, overthinking, over planning. It's like a just get up and go. And Pluto says yes. And the moon in Taurus says, how much does it cost? Do I want to spend money on this? The sun in Scorpio is also evaluating the finances and is looking at what the ROI might be and what the interest rate is. But there's a carefree energy here. And so if you have planets or points in the early degrees of the mutable signs, so early degrees of Gemini, early degrees of Virgo, early degrees of Sag, early degrees of Gemini, this full moon is going to unexpectedly shake up something for you. And I'm saying unexpected because we're focusing on Taurus, right? But there's a jostling here. Like the mutable signs have been feeling it already with Uranus here in Gemini, but I just feel like there's going to be some surprises, maybe even something you've been thinking about. You're understanding this Mars and Mercury in Sag are movers and shakers. It's time to go for it. And there's a lightness here too. That's the other thing about the mutable signs. There's a lightness, especially Mercury, a lightness in the step, a lightness in the movement. That's why they can move so fast, which is different than the plodding of Taurus. This is like a quickness. There's a quickness here that maybe you're feeling. A quickness in development, a quickness in something to do, say, express. You want to look at where you have the early degrees of Sagittarius and the early degrees of Gemini in your chart, you're learning something here about yourself by putting it into motion and doing it. You're learning about maybe even how big a dream can be, how big a manifestation can be. It's breaking you out of any limiting constructs of the mind. And I feel like if you've been planning on something or waiting on something, there's going to be a boost here with the Taurus full moon. So keep in mind that when we go through these charts, I know it's a lot of different planets and points and signs that I'm talking about. What you want to do is, in addition to identifying where you have 13 degrees of Taurus, the full moon point, but you'd also be looking at if any of these planets or points I've discussed are conjunct any of your natal placements, because that's going to work with you more personally. So again, if you have any planets or points in the early degrees of Sagittarius, this is a bigger full moon for you, because here's Mars and Mercury opposing Uranus, right? So this is going to be a big deal in your chart. If you have planets or points in the late degrees of Libra, well, here's this Venus, right? Bringing your attention to what you value, love, and want to receive in connections. And that could be a bigger influence for you at this time. So this is where astrology gets more intricate, more specific, and more personal, which is the best part of it. And then keep in mind, if you have a birthday here in November, that is something you're going to want to know, this chart or what's going on in November, because it's going to influence your solar return chart. Because your solar return chart is when the sun returns to the exact degree and minute of your birth. So if your sun is at 13 degrees of Scorpio, 22 minutes, this is a solar return for you. And then this could even be like this would be your solar return chart. But the solar return, the sun returns, and there's a whole new chart that's created for you that shows you what's going to unfold for you over the next 12 months. Okay, so that's a heads up for those of you with November and December birthdays. And I do have a class, a course you can learn about your solar return. It's called How to Read Your Solar Return Chart. And you go into that and understand where the placement of the sun is important, the placement of the moon, the placement of each of the planets. It's a very popular course, and it's a great way to understand what is happening for you this year. So I want to mention that. I'll put the link below the video here too, and you can get it for 50% off. Use coupon code BIRTHDAY. Okay, happy Taurus full moon, November 5th. I'll have a few more videos for you discussing this energy more, but I hope this gives you a good heads up on what you will be feeling, what you are healing, what you are changing, and what you are stabilizing. Yeah, there's a lot in motion. Well, we wouldn't want things to get boring. We wouldn't want boring. Not with Sagittarius now in the party. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back with more videos soon. See you online.